Hey guys, Stock Saturday, and it's a ever so slightly red week for me. About 1% down. S&P's down about 0.5%, and the Nasdaq's up, so slightly worse than that. But it's a rounding error really on the grand scheme of things. Sort of not a huge amount happened this week. And there's not a lot of earnings, so I thought I would go into just a bit of money saving tips. So I think all of us at some point in the last year may have fancied a little bit of extra cash if you're wanting to invest or just sort of pay the bills. Especially now for me, you want maybe a little bit of extra cash, and got a few sort of little bits and pieces that you can do, all sort of perfectly legal. Some sort of maybe frowned upon by some people, but there you go. So bank switching. This is sort of on the money saving expert website. It's it's perfectly fine to do. The banks are offering it, but yeah, you can sort of switch your current account into other banks, and they'll pay you in cash for doing so. So I've been doing this a little. I think obviously they would rather you're swapping your actual current account to them and sort of keeping it with them. The idea is sort of the place you have your current account is the place that you would then go for savings and mortgages and other products. I think that kind of mentality has sort of largely died, especially with the younger generation. The fact you can sort of switch on your phone, and the current account switching service is incredibly easy. I don't think there's that loyalty from customers, so maybe the banks are sort of still living in the dark ages, but you can get a reasonable amount of switching bonus. So if you want to be very harsh on the banks, you can sort of set up a separate account maybe, and then switch that into these accounts that are offering the bonus. That is essentially what Money Saving Expert are suggesting, even if it is sort of a bit harsh on the banks, but then they are making a fortune, so fair enough, I say. So you would switch to, say, Nationwide. Nationwide ask for you to have two direct debits going from the account, so you can maybe set up a couple and sort of cancel them shortly afterwards. And yeah, you get £200 just for that. It's, as far as I can see, the easiest money you can make. You've got other sort of accounts here. First Direct, you don't actually have to have any direct debits, but you have to pay in £1,000 within 3 months. Then you can withdraw it straight away. Normally you can withdraw it within the month, within a sort of couple of weeks. And yeah, £175. So yeah, you can sort of unfortunately milk these to death if you really want, and yeah, get a little bit of sort of easy cash on the side. Some of these have linked savings accounts, which I will come to in a second. So Nationwide are doing the £200 switching offer, but they're also offering a linked 8% regular savings account to sort of entice you not to be switching that current account away as soon as you get the bonus. Obviously, you have to keep the current account to hold the savings account. And yeah, this may be sort of worth keeping, I would say. People are sort of very critical of these products because, if you've got, say, £5,000 sort of sitting around and you want a decent savings rate, then these accounts sort of generally only allow you to put in sort of a certain amount. This Nationwide one is £200 a month. So yeah, if you're sitting there with £5,000, then you're not going to be able to put in a great deal of it at £200 a month, and you wouldn't be getting 8% on £5,000. But I don't think that's the way to think about them. I think if you are saving regularly, starting from very little, then you can be putting £200 in this. If you've got a little bit more, obviously you can sort of maybe switch a bank account to First Direct and also use their 7% regular saver. Their one is £300 a month. So if you've got a little bit more money to save, you can put £500 a month away into these two accounts, and you'll get 7% on one, 8% on the other, where instant access savings are sort of topping out at just over 5%. So I do think these products sort of certainly have their place. You could say if you've got sort of a large sum in a 3%, 4%, or even 5% really savings account, then you could just transfer sort of £200 a month or £300 a month into these regular savings accounts and just get a little bit extra. So I think there's lots of scenarios where they do make sense, and they maybe shouldn't get the criticism that they do for sort of falsely advertising a large percentage, because they do pay the percentage if you use them for how they are supposed to be used. They are, after all, called a regular savings account. They're not supposed to be for putting lump sums in. So next up, I guess, is hitting the banks again, or whichever sort of provider you choose to go with. But stoozing. So this is a lot of credit card companies will offer a card where you get 0% interest on purchases for a fixed period. A lot of them are sort of over a year, 18 months, some of them, some rare times even sort of up to 2 years. And you can sort of spend on the card and not sort of pay off the full balance, and you won't get charged any interest for that 18 months or 2 years, however long it is. You do have to pay. You can't pay off nothing. You do have to pay the minimum payment, which is often sort of 2% of the balance, 1% of the balance, whatever that may be. And you can sort of look at various providers on sort of comparison sites like this, or Money Supermarket or something like that. But the whole point is that you sort of build up this balance. You spend what you would normally spend, or if you've got a big purchase, you maybe put it on that credit card and sort of spend monthly what you would ordinarily spend. But you instead of paying off, you paid off the minimum balance, but the remainder of what you've spent and the minimum balance you put into a savings account, and you sort of essentially match the level on your credit card in the savings account. So you might want to sort of do a combination, say, of the Nationwide regular savings account. If you spend about £200 a month on your credit card, you sort of put £200 a month into this, and you carry on spending as normally on the credit card, not paying it off, just paying off the minimum balance. If you spend a little bit more, then, as I say, you could use, say, the First Direct savings account and the Nationwide savings account, or maybe just an instant access account at sort of 5%. So I've got a Marks and Spencer's 18 months 0% credit card, and I've got about sort of £3,000 on it now after sort of having it about 3 or 4 months. And yeah, I've got £3,000, the matching amount in a savings account, earning sort of partly 5%, partly 7% on the First Direct account. I haven't actually switched to Nationwide yet, but I will be doing that shortly and opening up this savings account. So yeah, you get interest on that £3,000. You don't pay off the 0% until the end of the term, and then you just pay off that full balance, if you like, with the money in the savings account minus the interest you've earned. Or there are potentially, which I'm sort of looking to do hopefully, 0% balance transfer cards. So if you can find one which doesn't charge you a fee for transferring the balance over, then you can sort of keep that money rolling on at 0% and keep it in these savings accounts if the rates hold sort of where they are by another 18 months' time. So yeah, you can end up earning a reasonable amount of interest. So if I end up with, say, £5,000 sort of over the life of this credit card, you could easily get £200, maybe maybe a little bit more in interest, and it's just an easy little way to make a little bit extra. I would say this one takes obviously a little bit of discipline. You're going to end up with £3,000, say £5,000 sort of sitting in a savings account, and it may be sort of very very tempting to spend that if you don't have to pay off the credit card for a year and a half, and sort of some people will think, I'll replenish it later on, but that's getting into sort of debt that you then can't pay off, for one, and for another thing, then you're not actually getting the benefit of the money in the savings account if you spend it. So that was the whole point of doing it in the first place. The whole point for me was to get a better return using credit card. I was using a sort of Tesco credit card and sort of getting club card points and just sort of thinking this isn't really worth it. And this sort of idea came across the bows for me, and I thought this is much better. So yeah, for one, you have to be disciplined to keep the money in there, and I would say it's best just to match the credit card balance in the savings account at all times, at least. Make the most of the savings account if you can. If you want to have more in there, that's fine. And lastly, for today, I mean, there's loads of tips out there, obviously, for saving money, but I think these ones are lesser known and sort of more sort of easy to do and potentially more lucrative if you use them right. So Quidco or Top Cashback, they're competitors. These are cashback websites. So when you're looking to sort of buy something online, they do a few things that you can do in person, but it's basically all online. Instead of buying that product or service direct, you would come to Quidco and use their link to go to the site and then sort of make your purchase. And the cashback website tracks the link. You sort of get a slightly different link, and they sort of track it, and basically they're sort of pretending as if they referred you there, when sort of in all likelihood you were often thinking of buying the thing anyway. I'm not sure Quidco sort of incentivize you to buy something that you weren't going to buy. That's really not the way to do it. I wouldn't say, come on Quidco and see what offers they are offering, because that is probably leading you to buy something that you wouldn't otherwise have, and that's just sort of not money saving, is it? But if you're going to buy something anyway, you can come on here. I find a good one is sort of insurances, home insurance, car insurance, and your sort of monthly bills, gas and electric, and that sort of thing. I do sort of find myself switching gas and electric pretty much every year, and you can get a little bit of money back on switching for those. But insurance is quite good as well. So, say car insurance, most people have to do this every year, of course, unless you have a sort of long-term rolling contract or something. I find it more lucrative for something that is generally a couple £100 a year. If you switch, you can get a reasonable amount back every year. So say you can sort by amount or percentage given. For something like car insurance, it's normally just a fixed amount, and yeah, you'll come down to so you can sort of use a service like Go Compare or Money Supermarket, and doesn't matter who you go with, you'll get £38 from using Money Supermarket. You can only do 2 of these per year, so you could say use Money Supermarket for your car insurance and home insurance once a year. That sort of seems reasonable thing to do, and yeah, whoever you go with, you'll get £38 cash back. So you could also use an individual company, Liverpool Victoria, for example, or the AA, and you earn different amounts. You obviously would sort of pick whichever you think is going to be the best one. You also want the cheapest actual insurance price. You can't just go by the cashback. That's why sort of using the comparison sites can be quite good, because you're going to get £38 regardless, and it'll still sort of compare for the best quote. You have sort of Confused and Compare the Market and people like that here as well. Or you can actually use their Quidco's own Compare service, and so they're offering £45 or up to £45. I presume there's going to be a little bit of terms and conditions in there. You may have to sort of some of these they'll sort of say up to £60, and that's for buying home and car insurance. And if you're just buying car insurance, say it might be £40, so you don't always get the, well, you often don't get the headline amount that they sort of say here. You might get a little bit less. But if you were going to do it anyway and earn nothing, then yeah, you may as well do it. So if you sort of fancy switching your car insurance and home insurance every year, then yeah, for sort of a, like I say, what might be a £200 a year car insurance, you can earn £38, £40, sort of, you know, that's 20% of the bill. So I think it's certainly worth doing. And yeah, between sort of the insurance, sort of gas and electric, and sort of buying various other things, if we buy like a laptop or a games console or something, often use them and sort of get £40-50. And the biggest one was actually when I signed up to BT for my internet when I bought my house. You can get a hell of a lot for sort of long-term things like that. Sky and sort of the internet seems a very lucrative one for here, because they think you'll just never switch, and yeah, you can get an awful lot for that. And in total, in sort of admittedly about 7 or 8 years, I've earned £861, with another hopefully £35 coming. But yeah, so you're not going to be a millionaire off cashback, but as long as you make sure it's purchases that you were going to make anyway, and not sort of get any particular benefit off it anyway, then you may as well get a little bit of money on top. And it's worth sort of saying that you can obviously combine some of these, so you can sort of go through Quidco and use their link and get a little bit of cash back, and then actually pay with a 0% credit card and sort of put that money into the savings account, so you're sort of doubling up cashback plus interest on the purchase. And for sort of expensive things like a holiday, maybe, you can actually get quite a bit of money back on that purchase. You know, £1,000 holiday, say, you know, you could get sort of £50 cash back maybe, and then 5% on the money paid over a year. So that's £100 back on a £1,000 purchase, which I think is good. It's just worth saying with Quidco, and I would imagine Top Cashback as well, that they do sometimes not want to pay out, or not be particularly keen to pay out. They will say that the retailers and people aren't paying them, and sort of make life a little bit difficult sometimes, and you have to sort of put in a claim and argue the toss a little bit. So that's why I always stress that it should be purchases that you were definitely going to make at that place anyway. You know, you don't want to pay sort of more generally because Quidco are offering a little bit more cash back. It should really be the place that you were going to buy the item anyway. So yeah, just accept, like, sometimes you're not going to get the payout, and that's fine. You were going to buy the product anyway. But if you do get it, it's a nice little bonus. So back to stock side, and sort of news-wise, there wasn't a huge amount of news. Wednesday sort of had some durable goods orders data for August, sort of a bit of a mixed bag. You know, up a little bit if you sort of take the whole lot, and sort of down a little bit maybe if you're excluding defence spending and that sort of thing. But yeah, not a huge amount there. A little bit of sort of GDP news. That was sort of old news, I would say. Pending home sales in the US was sort of a great big negative that was unexpected. Sort of these housing market data for the US do seem a little bit up and down with the sort of low volume. So yeah, it's a little bit strange, a little bit sort of wondering where that's going to go. And then on the Friday, the EU always sort of come out with their data very, very early, it seems. They've released September inflation data sort of provisionally before September's actually over. But there you go. And that was a lot lower than expected. So core CPI for the year was 5.3% last month, and was expected to come down 4.8%. So down 0.5%, and actually come down to 4.5. So that's quite a drop. And sort of headline CPI did the same, 5.2 down to 4.3 and was expected to be sort of 4.5. So yeah, the sort of potentially the sticky inflation narrative is sort of taken a bit of a knock. This may be sort of coming down quicker than maybe some people expected. You then had the US data, which was sort of a little bit more on expectations, 4.3% on the core PCE, down to 3.9% as expected. This, I always sort of make the point, is, and even investing.com put this as a 3-star importance. This is the one that the Federal Reserve sort of mainly keep an eye on and sort of cite. He's always talking, Jerome Powell's always talking about core PCE and the PCE index in general as sort of a better measure of inflation than CPI. So yeah, that sort of come down. The headline sort of slightly went up, whether that's just energy prices, I presume. But yeah, that was sort of pretty much it for news for the week. And then, yeah, portfolio-wise, not a lot of change, or not very much change at all in the ISA. Just sort of a couple of dividends from the invest account. I got the Vanguard Emerging Markets dividend, I believe, and got one from Broadcom, and yeah, I think one other doesn't come to mind. But yeah, I've been sort of putting dividends just into the ISA. I've got about £600 left to fill that by April, so hoping to do that with dividends. And yeah, that was sort of pretty much it. Haven't made any changes. Still got 6,000 and 6,500 in the money market fund. Sort of waiting to make my buy, whichever I end up buying, crypto or gold miners. And no change in the IG account. But I've been buying sort of a few more options. They have been sort of coming down in price. Equinox had a very bad week, and that's come right down to £600 in total. Bought a little bit more Core Mining. Bought a little bit more Himax. I'm buying sort of the 2026, January 2026 and or end of 2025 ones that look reasonably good value. Sort of expecting that to be the top of the liquidity cycle, as I've sort of shown before on Raoul Pal's charts. Sort of big believer in that. Next year should be a reasonable year with sort of US election, and expecting a little bit more potentially money printing, and certainly in 2025. And yeah, with these sort of deficits in the US and the UK and sort of elsewhere, there's going to be more printing, I would say. So I'm hoping to be sort of buying more of these 2025 options. The total is at 5,425, so that's down a little bit despite putting in a few £100 more. But I knew where I was with this. Still hoping to get that up to sort of £10,000 roughly. Got a little bit more cash that I can put in maybe in the next week or two. So yeah, see how it goes. So like and comment and subscribe if you want to see more, and see you soon.